Okay, welcome back to the Millennial Gentleman channel for part 2 of my expose on what I believe to be a criminal conspiracy involving many elected officials. In the previous section, the first part, which was divided into 5 different videos, was very long, but we talked about the Newberg Equity and Education Group. In this one, we're going to talk about the parent group, if you will, of that group, which is called Progressive Yamhill. You're going to learn a lot of things here, and it is a 101-minute read, so I'm going to try to make through it as well as I can. This is also the proofread for the article, so bear with me just a little bit. This article should be read as a continuation of my previous article, Meet the Newberg, Oregon Mafia led by elected officials and other community leaders. All of the same legal disclaimers apply, which you could read, in the previous article by clicking there. To eliminate redundancy, I am not repeating them here, but it's intended for readers to first read these legal disclaimers before proceeding. As said in the first part, every single person who is exposed had access to the exact same information I am showcasing here. They know the other members, they participated in the conspiracy, and I have no sympathy for the consequences of their plot being exposed. This nonsense is ending. And I have an introduction video here for people to watch. I'm not going to play it. Hopefully, as part of this playlist, you have already seen it. Not to sound like an e-beggar, but I am an independent reporter. I'm not part of any other media organization except my own small company. This article is exposing around 2,000 people as part of what I believe to be a criminal conspiracy, and I anticipate they will try to sue me for libel despite all the evidence I show here. In reading my last article, you will see the people I report on have already discussed suing me for libel over my past articles criticizing their activities, as they want to censor me. If you'd like to contribute to my legal defense fund so I may continue reporting on their activities, this is a link to my donation page on the article, which is at Give, Send, Go, since GoFundMe deplatformed me. Thank you, and I hope this article informs you in a way that the Newberg graphic has not. As you can see, this is the table of contents, and it is, long, but it's not as long as the first one. Fortunately, I did cut down on this a bit. Before we get into it, I want to share a few things. Newberg Superintendent Joe Morlock has not responded to my emails. Just a quick update on my last article. I sent the following email to Newberg School District Superintendent Joe Morlock on October 14th, which I have not yet received a response to. I believe he's had sufficient time to do so. I am making my letter to him public so that others may ask him these questions. Perhaps he will answer them if others ask. And let's see what these questions were. Questions concerning my expose article about your school district. And as you can see, Morlock's on there, as well as the, his bosses, which is the school board, which does, of course, include some of the members of the conspiracy that I'm accusing of being one at least, Penner, Pyros, and Panay. So it starts with, hello, Mr. Joe Morlock. By now, I am sure you have read my article, or heard about my article. It is understandable if you have yet to have the time to read through its claims, as it is quite long, but I wanted to ask you a few questions concerning the information I showcase in the article. In the event you haven't heard about the article, here's the link. These are my questions for you. Do you support the activities of Newberg Equity in Education? They certainly believe that you do, and have said multiple times you are working toward their agenda, and even intentionally obstructing the school board to do so. Are the claims about your motivations and loyalties made by the members of NEED, which included currently employed faculty members of the school, true? What is your financial relationship, if any, to Kristen Stoller? According to its website, you are both on the board of a nonprofit, Newberg Education Foundation. Is this a paid position? Are there any financial transactions between her and or her companies and or her husband's companies and yourself and or any companies you may hold an ownership interest or position within. During my investigation of the Need group communications in their private Facebook group, I saw several members alarmed after the events of the last school board election. One of the reasons they were alarmed is because they didn't want the new school board members to gain access to the bond, which I believe is managed by Greg Hayworth Koskela, who is a member of Need. Do you have any idea why they were concerned about the new school board members learning any information about the bond or why the bond mattered at all to them? This wasn't made clear to me by their communications, and I am seeking some insight into why they felt the bond was something they did not want the new school board members to have any oversight over. Will you be holding the teachers who made FERPA violations, such as Joshua Reed, accountable for these violations as per the screenshots of their discussion about personal student health and other records information that is shown in the article? Will any of the teachers who are members of Need who witnessed these violations of FERPA and did not report them be held accountable as well? Second part of the email. Ty Hardin Moore mentioned you shared personal details about students related to the so-called Snapchat slave trade incident with her, which she then shared to around 600 people in the Need group. Which section of FERPA permitted you to release this information to her? Which section of FERPA permitted Tammy Aaron to issue the press release about this same incident, which was not a criminal matter, and consequently I do not think an issue of community interest per FERPA, but perhaps I have just overlooked some aspect of FERPA and you can clarify this section that allowed this disclosure of student information in a press release. Can you please confirm whether the Newburgh School District is showing the supplemental lesson sexually explicit media curriculum materials of the My Future, My Choice program to students in the district, and if so, which grades of students? Can you also confirm whether or not the book It's Perfectly Normal is being used by any of the teachers in the district, and or if it is included in any of the school libraries as has been claimed by parents I spoke with? One of your teachers, Angela Spratcher, shared a TikTok account where she showed classrooms covered in transracial pride flags and other kinds of political propaganda. The first classroom very obviously did not have an American flag hanging in the classroom. Will you be penalizing the teacher for this intentional violation of Oregon state law? She has privated her TikTok, but I screen captured the video that shows she clearly posted it on her account. And by the time you read this, I will already have the video copy linked up to the article to prove this violation of state law has occurred. Will you be taking any actions against the teachers who are members of Need for the obvious and intentional violations of the Hatch Act, as well as other laws such as ORS 260.432, solicitation of public employees, and the coercion of students to participate in the political activities of the teachers' union, and the use of school property to engage in these violations of the law during their work hours? What is your relationship with Guadalupe Martinez Zapata, Vice Chair of the Oregon Department of Education? Do you support the seditious statements she made to members of Need, and who, as the evidence shows, has participated in events such as training seminars with the members of Need who are teachers and faculty in the district, and who encouraged and advised them on their conspiratorial activities against elected school board directors? Will you be terminating the employment of teachers who actively participated in the coercion and intimidation of elected school board officials by their participation in the Need Mafia group, and who as members of it also failed to report these obvious unethical and illegal actions if they didn't directly participate in and only observed it? I would like to know if you believe you have done an adequate job of administrating the district, given this criminal conspiracy was formed and organized during your tenure over it, possibly beneath your nose, and it has involved so many administrators, such as principals and school counselors, into it. Were you aware of these activities prior to the publication of my article? Personally, as I have said in the article, I believe this happening on your watch demonstrates gross incompetence, Given I so very easily ferreted this out within less than 24 hours of learning about the existence of need, and believe you should be fired, but what are your thoughts on the subject? I have CC'd the members of the Newburgh School Board on this email, as I understand them to be your bosses, and I wouldn't want my line of questioning to you about these topics to be something they are unaware of. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to your response. Carrie Martell. So, now we get into Pamphlet Media Group, who also has to be discussed, and the Newburgh Graphic response to my criticism of their reporting. I'm going to take a quick drink off my water here. I imagine this article is making me very thirsty. Okay, before we dive into the criminal conspiracy committed by the progressive Yamhill Facebook group members, and there's the link right there to them, against residents of Yamhill County, I want to take the time to point out something important about the powerful media enterprise Pamphlet Media Group that controls many of the newspapers in Oregon. This company, owned by Robert B. Pamphlet Jr., apparently the third wealthiest man in Oregon, according to his Wikipedia bio, currently owns many of the historical city newspapers in Oregon. Here's a list from Wikipedia of newspapers Pamphlet owns. That's Beaverton, Beaverton Valley Times, the Selwood, the Bee, Canby's, the Herald, Prineville's Central Oregonian, Clackamas Review, Estacada News, Forest Grove News Times, Hillsborough Tribune, King City Regal Courier, Lake Oswego Review, the Madras Pioneer, the Molalla Pioneer, the Newburgh Graphic, North Willamette News, Oregon City News, the Outlook, Portland Tribune, Sandy Post, Sherwood Gazette, South County Spotlight, the Southwest Community Connection, the Times in Tigard, West Lynn Tidings, and Wilsonville Spokesman, and the Woodburn Independent. One of the first things I did when I published my expose of the Newburgh Equity and Education Mafia, sorry, it says action, it should be education, Mafia, is send an email to Mark Graber. I'm just going to make a note of this very quickly here to fix that. Equity in Action. That would have been a neat name. Equity in Action. It should be education. Okay. I sent an email to Mark Garber, President and Publisher J. Brian Monahan, Vice President, and Vance W. Ton, Director of Operations, who are listed on their Contact Us section of the website as the individuals who actually run Pamphlet Media. This was the email I sent. I demand retractions from the Newburgh Graphic. Hello, I am an independent reporter. I have recently published an expose on around 600 people involved in what I believe to be a criminal conspiracy in Newburgh, Oregon, that has used your publications to deceive the public and harass elected officials, and there's a link to my article. Given the large amount of evidence I show in my article, I believe your staff at the Newburgh Graphic have assisted this criminal conspiracy with their reporting on the events happening in Newburgh. I demand a full retraction and public apology to the residents of Newburgh, Oregon, of course, because they have called the residents of Oregon a inherently racist group of white supremacists, which I believe is not true and that they know was not true, based on the evidence. I want Ryan Clark specifically to publicly apologize to the residents of Newburgh. Please let me know if, after reading my article, you believe the coverage your staff has made about the events in Newburgh, Oregon are accurate and you stand behind them, or if you will issue retractions. Thank you. Carrie Martell. Everyone in Oregon should know that Gary Allen, editor of the Newburgh Graphic, replied back to my email informing me that he will not issue any retractions on Ryan Clark's misleading reports that are based on information and statements obtained from Need Mafia members who created a conspiracy to mislead the residents of Newburgh. Here you go. Gary Allen right there. Mr. Martell, thank you for your input. We stand behind our reporting of the school board's activities over the past 3+ months and will continue to cover these important issues for the foreseeable future. There will be no retractions. Good day. Gary Allen, editor, Newburgh Graphic. To specifically read about how Need coordinates with press to deceive the public, including the members of the press who are actual members of Need, you can click this link to jump to this part of the expose. It's in the last video. Okay? And you can read about that. To this date, the Newberg Graphic has not reported on any of the information I have released in my previous article that demonstrates the criminal activities of the Newberg Equity in Education Group, whom the Newberg Graphic has bent over backwards to serve as their mouthpiece, spreading their lies and assisting with their goal of causing hysteria in Newberg. I sent a tweet out to them. Ryan Clark and Newberg Graphic, why aren't you reporting on the scandal involving Newberg Equity in Education intimidating and harassing Newberg School Board members using unlawful and unethical tactics? I've got nothing back so far. Instead of reporting on the criminal conspiracy, Ryan Clark engages in speculation over a heavily garbled audio clip recorded using a low-quality microphone on a phone held to a low-quality laptop speaker, recording someone talking who is obviously very far away from the microphone of the computer with echoes bouncing off the walls. Here it is, Ryan Clark. At last night's Newberg School Board meeting, Newberg resident Michael Gunn could be heard calling a previous student a little fag, is what he said, when he thought his microphone was off. I listened to it, and this is my opinion. It's too mumbled to make out what he actually said. You're allowing a phenomenon called pareidolia, I think is how you pronounce it, to send you down another witch hunt. When are you going to retract your articles about the Need Group now that their criminal conspiracy has been exposed? This is the same phenomena that allows a person to think they are hearing the voices of ghosts from the white noise of tape recorders. The sound of whoever was speaking was recorded far from the original microphone, and microphones on laptops are not high. They don't gather a lot of information. Let's just put it that way. The sound of whoever was speaking was recorded far from that original low-quality microphone, and then that garbled clip passed through several different machines to finally become that video clip. Okay? This makes the recording no more reliable than a game of telephone. We have, the garbled audio clip from somebody's computer, which was obviously recorded far away. Then we have the person who is getting that audio feed through a Zoom chat, which doesn't have the highest amount of audio either, right? Then you have them recording that off of their computers, the low-quality speakers, using their cell phone, which again is a low-quality microphone. These are not high quality. And what do I mean by quality? It doesn't record the full range of sound spectrum. It's not like professional audio equipment, okay? This is something that you learn about in film and video production school and audio recording. You can get garbled nonsense if you don't have good audio capturing technique. So, reporting something like this as news from such a garbled audio clip is incredibly unethical and dishonest, especially as he ignores the evidence my article has shown while fixating on something this unsubstantiated. It seems clear to me the writers at the Newberg Graphic and all writers at other newspapers owned by Pamphlet Media Group refuse to report any news that might undermine their personal political agendas, which are very obvious by what they do report and what they refuse to report on, by refusing to retract published articles that are based on information which came from Newberg Equity in Action. I guess I said action again here. Members who, as detailed in my article, are part of a criminal conspiracy with the stated goal of dismantling and rebuilding America into a racially segregated society via the indoctrination of children into critical race theory. Pamphlet Media has demonstrated it has no intentions to comply with the SBJ Code of Ethics. Those who do not comply with the SBJ Code of Ethics should not be considered journalists. The SBJ Code of Ethics are the professional guidelines for journalism in America. Breaking these guidelines is as bad as violating the Hippocratic Oath for doctors or the Oath of Admission for attorneys. There are relevant sections of the SBJ Code of Ethics. These are the relevant sections of the Code of Ethics that I believe Pamphlet Media is violating by refusing to retract their coverage of Newberg, Oregon that was based on information provided by NEED members. Ryan Clark repeatedly leaving out key details such as Ty Hardin Moore was far more, such as that Ty Hardin Moore was far more than just a concerned parent, is itself a major violation given she worked as a diversity consultant for the city of Newberg. So, various things, right? Seek truth and report it. take responsibility for the accuracy of their work, verify information before releasing it, provide context, take special care, not misrepresent things, update and correct information throughout the life of a news story. They're not doing that. Identify sources clearly. Didn't do that with Ty Hardin and many of the other people who weren't just concerned parents. They were city employees. At least they were contractors for the city, which make them a public official under Oregon law. They're still bound by these same types of disclosures. The public is entitled to as much information as possible to judge the reliability and motivations of sources. Leaving this stuff out is unethical. Be vigilant and courageous about holding those with power accountable. Give voice to the voiceless. Are they doing that? I don't think that they are. I think that they are not doing it. They're not reporting the truth, and they're not being courageous because they're not reporting on powerful people who are doing unethical things. Recognize a special obligation to serve as watchdogs over public affairs, government, and government. Seek to ensure that the public's business is conducted in the open and that public records are open to all. They're not doing that. They're not reporting on this. I'm reporting on this. I'm the one who is trying to make sure that the public's business is conducted in the open and that records are available to all. Seek sources whose voices were seldom heard. We seldom hear. Are they doing that? Of course they're not. Label advocacy and commentary. Not doing that either. I at least label what I'm doing. I tell people plainly what my political biases and viewpoints are. I don't hide it. I don't pretend that I'm an objective source while actually selectively choosing information based on a political agenda, which I believe the Newberg Graphic and many other publications are doing. Never deliberately distort facts or context. Don't mention, who these people actually are when you're quoting them in the news with the objective of changing people's and impacting people's opinions about these public issues. That's a distortion of facts and deliberate, I think. I think it's deliberate because how could he not know who Taya Hardin-Moore is? He's covered city council meetings that involve her. Be accountable and transparent. You have to bring this in. Ethical journalism means taking responsibility for one's work and explaining one's decisions to the public, which I believe I have done very adequately in my reporting. Acknowledge mistakes and correct them promptly and prominently. Explain corrections, clarifications carefully. Clearly, they're not doing that. Expose unethical conduct in journalism, including within your own organization. Well, I'm the one who I think is doing that. Abide by the same high standards they expect of others. Are they doing that? I don't think they are. So, I would suggest that if you want to support journalism, you don't support any publications owned by Pamplin Media Group, as they don't engage in legitimate journalism, clearly. My previous expose article was read by over 10,000 people in the Newberg, Oregon area within 48 hours of publication. See? 10,000 unique visitors. The first part of this report was an article just about Newberg, Oregon, population around 23,000 people. This continuation is for the residents of Yamhill County, population of around 107,000. Sorry, getting a little tongue-tied here. 107,000, where many of the Pamplin Media Group's newspapers operate. I have placed this information about Pamplin Media Group into this article at the beginning because I think it is important that residents of Yamhill County understand Pamplin Media Group is not bringing you the kind of information they should be. The information in my prior expose in this new article was extremely easy to obtain, costing me nothing except time. And they know about it because they replied to my email about the article. Pamplin Media Group has the resources to have exposed these activities to the residents of Yamhill County long ago, and even when they are given this information on a platter, they do nothing with it. You'll find none of their publications have covered my last expose. They clearly think they can control the narrative and manipulate the citizens of this county. I say they cannot. America is not an absolutist country. It is not a zero-sum game. It is not an oligarchy. The amount of money and influence you wield does not change the amount of power you have at the voting ballot box. Anyone has equal opportunity to be just as politically influential in America as the wealthy elite. I proved this with my reporting by exposing those who I believe engaged in a criminal conspiracy in their intimidation of elected officials and coercion of private businesses, no matter how politically powerful and wealthy they think themselves to be. I now prove it again with this second expose on the activities of Progressive Yamhill, who I believe to be an extension of the criminal conspiracy formed by Newberg Equity in Education. All of their money and influence will not help them. Truth conquers lies. I will teach you chuckleheads how America actually works. I will show you why America is the greatest country in the world, where tyrants can be brought low by free people. This lion roars again. Welcome to part 2 of my expose. The curtain falls. I have to admit, I played something of a nasty trick on the members of Newberg Equity in Education. You see, in actuality, the group is a splinter cell of another larger group, which itself is of course part of a much larger group too. But for the moment, let's focus on the larger group at the county level that Newberg Equity in Education is subservient to. Let me explain. Here is Megan Corvos, whom you may recognize from part 1 of this expose as a representative for Yamhill Democrats, ranting about how elite and special her group is, and in so doing, explaining that Progressive Yamhill is for manipulating politics in the county and its city. Here she is. We are here to do the work in our community. Places not to talk about news and places we can influence. Other groups for that, in fact, multiple other groups for that very thing, are listed in our welcome note for just this reason. You can go elsewhere for those conversations. This group is the only place we can have the local conversations and where we hope people feel they can come to be informed and given specific, achievable actions they can take, and not just feel overwhelmed by the onslaught of frustrating news. We're not here to be outraged. We are here to do the work, which means we have to find ways to find common ground and yada yada for the purpose of move local policy decisions in a progressive direction. Progressive Yamhill is not just a fun Facebook group for members to share funny memes and talk about politics. It has the objective of influencing local policy decisions in what Megan Corvos claims are progressive directions. Now, I disagree and believe they are regressive, but let's continue on. The current Yamhill County Treasurer, Chris Bledsoe. Sorry, I guess I put it shoe there. Let me just make a note to fix that. Bledsoe is incorrect. Should be Bledsoe, I believe. Asking members to help her election campaign by sending letters to newspapers on her behalf without acknowledging that Chris Bledsoe asked them to do this. Tisk tisk, naughty naughty. Pretty sure you're supposed to disclose that stuff if a candidate asked you to do some marketing on their behalf. Here she is, doing that right here. Here is an entire thread where Megan Corvos organized members of Progressive Yamhill to interfere with Newberg politics. You will recognize many of these names as people who are influential members of Newberg Equity in Education's Mafia. If you live in Newberg, she says, comment here, please. We will use this thread to enable notifications to Newberg folks for Newberg-specific actions. Here's all their smiling faces. All so eager. We got Stephanie Bell Findlay. Oh, yeah, on City Council. Got another City Council one First one, in fact, Elise Yarnell Holloman, so eager to serve the mafia. Beth McDonald Woolsey, one of the founders of Need. Oh, Sarah Hadley writes. So she's such a great, talented propagandist. Ooh, here's Susan Delventhal, Samantha Wilkinson, Cheris Bach, professor at George Fox University, Corey Jones Burkle, who you might recall was part of the intimidation of elected officials. Her husband is the one who was part of that. Karen Pugsley, working as administrator at Newburgh Schools, and so on and so forth. Okay, lots of people. We've got the daughter here of Robert Sopp, former Newburgh City councilman. I believe she's the daughter. That's what I've been told by contacts. Kim Warrington, her smiling face right there. Jewel Bruce Green, lovely. Here's Brandy Kaufman-Penner, Newburgh School Board director. Got AJ Swans, used to be on committees, very involved in Need, and Megan Corvos. Thank you, everyone. This is an experiment to see if it's a better way to make sure Facebook shows you information that is specific to Newburgh residents. My thought is that I'll use this thread to post links back to actions, so you'll be sure to get notified that there's something for you. Here's the first experiment. There's a school board meeting tonight, and members of our community have requested your support to stand up for the school district's statement about being an anti-racist district. You can learn more. Take a minute to submit a quick comment. That's right. I just want to take this moment to thank Megan Corvos so very much for making my job as an investigative reporter easier by providing me this directory guide on which members were best to focus on when writing my article about Newburgh equity in education. It was very helpful for me when I was writing part 1 of this article. Yes. This is the part where I reveal the stage you conspirators have all been on. Megan Corvos and company, I have been in both of your groups using information your mafia members have been posting between the groups to figure out the connections between your criminal enterprise and what your goals are. This also means that, yes, as I'm sure has just dawned on you all, I did in fact sit there in your group watching as you all talked about the first article. Thank you all so very much for incriminating yourselves in numerous ways right before my eyes as I screenshotted everything you said, while I simultaneously had public arguments with many of you in other public Facebook groups to flush you out like rats. The proof that I watched it unfold before my eyes is the timestamps on the messages. For example, within 7 minutes of Megan Corvos posting about my article. See that? 7 minutes. Let's just highlight this a little bit. 7 minutes, guys. 7 minutes. She said, "What the hell? Carrie Martell has released a 5-episode podcast targeting Newburgh activists." There I was, watching you all in one browser window, while in the other browser window, I was logged into my own personal account, badgering the less astute members of your conspiracy in the public Facebook groups of Newburgh and Yamhill County, so as to agitate your entire nest into a frenzy of self-incriminating statements in the progressive Yamhill group. Allow me to explain. After analyzing your past group behavior when the group is under threat in a public Facebook group, such as the funeral incident, which, yes, I will be showing here later in this article, I made a prediction about how to get you all to act within progressive Yamhill to self-incriminate yourselves, so I could verify my hypothesis that you're part of the same criminal conspiracy. Step 1, place the cult into a totally unexpected situation where every member of the group understands the existential threat it is facing and feels they must defend it. This is achieved by exposing the smaller group and all its members, which includes some leaders of the larger group, so that no one is left out of the hysteria. Thus, part 1 of this expose. Step 2. Agitate the group by ridiculing some of its leaders in the expose shared in public Facebook groups, which compels the most loyal of the members to come forward to engage in their habitual pattern of virtue signaling, so they can be applauded by other members for daring to insult the person who threatens the cult. It says threats, but it really should be threaten. Okay. Essentially, make the worker bees come out to sting on behalf of the rest of the hive. For example, here in Newburgh Dundee Info Group, I posted the article and then I said, by the way, I have written to Pamphlet Media demanding graphic issue the retraction, yada yada. Here comes Erin McCarthy, who you may remember from previous articles. She is the one who put the Black Lives Matter and transracial pride flag signs up on her property in view of the school. She's all, jumping Jesus on a jungle gym. Is this real? Yes, Erin, this is very real. This is too crazy to be real. Journalistic equivalent of waiting for Guffman. I say, yeah, that's not really going to work anymore. Your entire network has been exposed. Of course, I said this because I wanted you to think that I thought it was just the entire network, but in reality, I knew that it was not. I get that you're going through stage 1 of grief denial, but could you do it more quietly? Just let your names go down in history as the losers that you are. You'll only make it worse for yourselves if you don't accept that the jig is up and turn yourselves in to law enforcement. You are just a worker bee, Erin McCarthy. You're not a queen of the hive. Step 3. Discredit the loyalist efforts to defend the hive so they retreat. Show them how quickly the table is turned on them by having their efforts to defend the cult undermined by the sharing of incriminating screenshots as a response to their posts. The very evidence they are trying to discourage others from seeing by trying to discredit me in the comments to my article. The Defender Bee's activities now harm the hive instead of defending it, as every bee sting is actually having the effect of causing further damage to the hive. So as an example, here somebody made a post here, and I responded by posting incriminating screenshots that are all highlighted here. They don't like that. No, they don't want that to happen. Step 4, the queens finally come out trying to defend the hive. But this is dealt with in the same way. There's Megan there. Yes. Wasn't very effective. Wasn't very smart, was it? Nope. Wasn't smart. Here's Kristen thinking that she's clever. Oh, wasn't so clever. Step 5. Left with no other avenue to maintain its integrity. Now observe the group do the only route it has left to maintain its integrity. The bees retreat to gather in the other hive that they think has not yet been infiltrated and is still safe. Share their outrage, virtue signal to restore their damaged pride, and plot their next steps. Yet, it wasn't safe. I was already there, and you were trapped, and you didn't even know it. Now that I've allowed your cult a few days to do your virtue signaling, it's time to show the world what you said. I very much enjoyed watching this. I'm sorry, I know that I'm gloating here, but this was fun. This was fun to watch. Aaron Chen, do the people need to know about this? Megan, not yet. That group is in it, and I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. Can we shoulder tap the people who were specifically called out as being mafia? And here's this person. This cannot be allowed to stand, says Karen Lawn. Ooh, can't be allowed to stand. How are you going to stop me? Just to take a short break here, explaining something important about this next part, because they're going to accuse me of having mental health crisis. They don't actually believe I have mental health issues. This is just their virtue signaling, Orwellian doublespeak, since they are part of a cult where they believe anyone who is white has a mental illness called racism. I made it very clear in my first article that I don't endorse violence. I removed details like home addresses and phone numbers when I could have left it in. I said plainly that our system of government they so very hate is the very system that must punish them, using the civil and legal penalties and the ballot box. The only reason they are seeking to discredit me here is because it's the only thing they can do to explain away my actions. Their pride won't permit them to admit they have been in the wrong. The thing you must understand about virtue signalers is they do not actually believe the things they say they do for virtue. I think they do believe they are racist people and the arguments of critical race theory, but they also understand they do horrible things in the name of it, which they self-justify by trying to reframe their actions to appear more noble than they actually are. They are fully aware of the moral depravity of their actions. That's why it's called virtue signaling. The delusion is not that they think they are morally good. Their delusion is actually narcissism. They need the applause of the crowd. They need admiration. They need to feel their self-centeredness is warranted. Yet, they are actually very cowardly and fairly incompetent people who are unable to do genuine good. I said genuinely good, should have been genuine. Sorry about that. Had to take a bit of a break. Useful. So they are unable to do genuinely good. All right, maybe actually that was right. They are fairly incompetent people who are unable to do genuinely good, useful things. I guess I was actually correct. I stand corrected on my own typos. Useful things to solve real problems. For these timid souls, it's easier to just reframe an otherwise insignificant action, such as hanging a pride flag in a school, and make it seem like it's some massively important, critical thing to save the world, when it's really not. So the cult members obsess about things that are in fact rather meaningless, like sexual orientation, skin color, and gender, and especially hobbies and weird food diets, but that they think can have the appearance of being positively moral to others using motivated reasoning. This works for them, even if those actions are actually terrible, so long as the action can be framed to sound morally good. Virtue signaling is a common phenomenon among people who are in cults because cults rely on exploiting narcissistic attributes in people to give them an easy path to obtain recognition, which is why they are so easily tempted with promises of secret knowledge, power, and so forth, right? Like just put a pride flag bumper sticker on your car and somehow magically you've become a revolutionary. Well, you don't. These actions are morally irrelevant. However, their belief these actions make them morally superior to others is in and of itself a reflection of their morality, especially when they decide to harass and intimidate others for refusing to agree with their cultish ideology. Their beliefs encourage them to become selfish, vain, greedy, and dishonest, yet believe themselves to be virtuous. I'm explaining this so that in the next part, when you read people like Kristen Stoller say they are calling the police to do wellness checks for my benefit, you can understand what they actually mean is that they are trying to have me swatted by filing intentionally false police reports because what they want to do is harass me in retaliation for exposing their evil to the world. Filing intentionally false police reports is a crime, by the way. However, you should know that before I ever published the first article, I had already called both the City of Newburgh Police and the Yamhill County Sheriff, informing them I would be publishing the article and what it was about. I sent a link to the article to a detective at the Sheriff Department as well. I didn't do anything that local law enforcement was not already aware of, and so their efforts to swat me were not successful. I did this because I had noticed in some past communications within the group they had tried filing false police reports against other people in the past as a means of intimidation and harassment. So I preempted this tactic by informing local law enforcement they may try to do this against me. Let's continue on this thread now with this in mind, and we'll find that. Oh, by the way, Scott Hodges appears right here. Take note of Scott Hodges, who I called out in a prior article for removing my articles criticizing Ty Hardin Moore from the Newburgh Dundee Community Facebook group he is an admin for. Scott Hodges is a member of Progressive Yamhill. Several of their members are admins at various Facebook groups related to cities in their county. They try to control the public narrative by making themselves moderators of other Facebook groups so they can remove information that goes against their agenda. Okay. At one part, they talk about how I said P flag stood for Pride Flag Newburgh, and I think that it does. I know that the acronym technically has, an official way, but let's be honest, guys, okay? It's meant to mean Pride Flag. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. Anyway, so Megan says to Sherry Yeager, he has swords. And Scott says, swords only. And then Lisa says, so he likens himself a ninja. I think this is funny. Oh no, he's got swords, guys. Woo-woo. Yeah, yes, I have blunted steel Federschwert trainers as part of my hobby interest in the combat sport of historical European martial arts, which I have an instructor certification in. It's an emerging sport that reconstructs historical martial arts from Renaissance Italy and Germany based on instructions from manuscripts that have survived for hundreds of years to present day. It does involve fencing with blunt steel practice weapons that reproduce the handling characteristics of weapons such as lawn swords and rapiers. It combines my interest as a martial artist with my interest in history, and I rather enjoy it. I also own a business that sells the sporting equipment to beginners. It's not really that big of a deal, but it is unusual enough. I guess it requires some explanation. Anyway, to correct Lisa McCracken, I do not liken myself to be a ninja. It would be more accurate to say I study the European knightly martial arts, not the Japanese ninja arts. I suppose, in some ways, I have become somewhat of a knight errant, appearing where I am needed to slay the dragons. So I won't protest the label too much if you wish to assign a historical warrior character class to me. Just make sure that you get it right. I am like a knight, not a ninja. Continuing on. And I won't go through all this. They share like my workout videos and my weight loss update photos for some reason. And yeah, like it's kind of odd that they're, afraid of my masculinity, but you could always read this stuff on your own time. There's some stuff I did highlight, though. Robin Henner says, I believe this man is experiencing a mental health crisis. I'm concerned for the safety of those targeted by him. Kristen says, I agree. And should someone be notified, says Karen Lawn. And Kristen says, I notified police department and will maybe call Yamhill County, but I don't know where he lives. Oh, geez. So as you can see, Kristen Stuller admits she tried to swat me / file false police reports claiming me to be dangerous to her when she knows that I am not. This is the kind of people that they are. They don't actually believe in defunding the police and getting rid of the police, as they still want to call the police on people that upset them. They will try to use the police as a weapon against those they dislike who dare to expose them for what they actually are. What they actually don't want is anyone to police themselves and their own behavior. Again, always look at what they do and not what they say to understand what they actually believe. And more nonsense, all of which I've read. It's all kind of funny, though. I really do suggest that you read through it. It is very amusing. And, of course, Liz trying to report my posts for false information. Not going to work, guys, because the people at Facebook don't give a shit. Heather Ann, I reported it for harassment. How's it harassment? It's a news article. Megan Corvos says to Phil Hibbles, he doesn't even live in Newburgh. You do know I'm in Newburgh, as your members have seen me talking to the counter-protesters. They talked about that in your group before, as well as in Need. I believe I shared those screenshots before in the previous article. So why are you lying, Megan? Do you think new, more absurd lies can somehow help you? Besides, you live in Washington County. You live over in Gaston. Why are you interfering in Yamhill County politics and then acting like if I was out of the area it would make some difference? You don't think about what you say very deeply. More and more. Here's Karen Lawn. How can this be allowed to happen? She's saying, I guess she's repeating herself. How can complete lies and misinformation be allowed to be aired? This guy is a total lunatic. It's not lies. I quoted your own screenshots. Robin Henzer thinks, oh yeah, I was exposed too. We're good trouble. Ooh, good trouble. Think you're good trouble, huh? Well, I guess we'll find out. Let's see. What does Todd have to do with anything? Well, you kind of explain it yourselves, but whatever. Anyway, the important thing is that what I'm highlighting here is they're proving their close ties to Need. That's what they're really doing here. Catherine says, can you tell me if Sarah Luntz is on the list? And let's see. They said, I can't recall who he listed as related to Todd. And they said, probably his wife, Tamara. Thanks for confirming information, guys. Thanks for confirming it. Annie Berger. Hey, Catherine. I can't pronounce this middle word. Catherine Barnett. Sending love your way. I'm so sorry. He doesn't know you. Blah, blah, blah. I'm a narcissist. Blah, blah, blah. Beth VSW. Does anyone know if he's actually living in the area right now? Because they want to try to swap me. Kristen Seller says, I can alert mental health response teams. Yeah, you're trying to swap me is what you're trying to do, Kristen. And you're just so stupid. You just showed the whole fucking world. Wow, this is 51 minutes already. It's already kind of juicy. Let's see, Megan Corvos. I did a little digging and called around last time he posted all this. Kristen Stoller says, well, I need to know how someone could find him. That's right. I gotta find Carrie Martell. Where in the world is Carrie Martell? It could be a whole video game like Carmen Sandiego. Carly Barnett. Well, here we go. And Megan's like, sorry, his section about you is so awful. It's not awful. I told you the truth. I call you guys out for what you are. You're not nice people. You're bad people. And I've called you out for the bad things that you do. Sally Godard. Saying Newburgh Police and Yamhill County Sheriff should probably have a copy of this article. I did not read it. I'm sorry, I can't stop laughing. She says that police should know about an article that she hasn't even read. That's how utterly freaking insane she is. How can you make that claim? This is what she knows. She knows it exposes the group. That's all she knows, and she thinks it's bad, it's wrong. Ooh, gotta report it to the police. I already told the police. The police know. Oh, jeez. Robin Hensler. I believe there are people working to determine his location to get him checked on. Oh, yeah, checked on. Ooh, try to check on me. Ann Falla. The fast free check just shows driving uninsured in 2000, but it was dismissed. Trying to find out who I am. It was dismissed because I did have insurance. The officer who wrote that ticket was inexperienced and poorly trained. It was like 20 years ago. How is that going to help you guys today? Jeez. It says, you made the team. Thanks for confirming that they're a member. Allison Larkin's like, do I need to worry about this since my name's on it? Oh, you made the team. Thanks for, confirming your loyalty, guys. Nathan Zom, congrats on being an undesirable. Somehow I didn't make the cut. Thanks for letting everybody know, Nathan, that you should have been part of that. Okay, let me explain it, since it went over you guys' heads. Because I'm going to... This is specifically for this part here. By Tara Peterson that says, one scary comment by Carrie Martell. While I have read enormous amounts of information about the personal lives of these people, the only things I am sharing here are details related to the criminal organization they are participants in. And let me explain here, since it kind of went over your guys' heads. You self-centered idiots constantly talk about your personal lives in your groups as you try to earn digital brownie points from one another. It's not my fault you're a bunch of narcissists who can't stop talking about yourselves in Facebook Mafia Club. As I said, I don't care about your personal lives. I'm trying to snare the whole lot of you in a wide net to bring your criminal conspiracy to an end. To do this, I need to expose your connections, motivations, and actions. There's a lot of personal stories you share in the process of digging that information out of your group, because you're all virtue signaling so much, trying to gain a pat on the back from your fellow cult members. I mean, honestly, some of the nonsense I've had to dig through. I probably deserve a Pulitzer just for being able to organize the constant self-congratulatory, ego-stroking rants of over 1,000 people made over a span of 4 years into these 2 articles. They probably won't give me one, though, since my style is so gonzo. Blah, blah, blah. Imagine that. What I should talk about here. Tara says, there's this gem from Carrie Martell on Indigenous Peoples Day. Talking about critical race theory and how they get the history of the Western expansion of America wrong. Oh, yeah, imagine that. Talking about history on a holiday for talking about history. So terrible. To you, it was Indigenous Peoples Day, which apparently has sacred meaning to you as a member of a critical race theory cult. To me, it was a Tuesday. I don't pay attention to most holidays, certainly not what day Columbus Day falls on. And then Heather Ann says, did anyone actually view his spreadsheet? Is there harmful personal information there? And Aaron Chen says, yes, it's pretty much what's visible on Facebook. Oh yeah, it's horrible stuff, guys. Horrible stuff on your Facebook profiles. If it's so horrible, how come you put it on your Facebook profile for the whole world to see? Huh? Okay. Megan Corvos says, it's a list of everyone who is a member of the group. Thank you so much, Megan Corvos, for confirming that. He did identify some people's real identities connected to mass Facebook profiles. Yes, thank you for acknowledging what a wonderful journalist I am. I probably could have had a really nice career in law enforcement. I did consider it, but I chose to become a digital entrepreneur instead. I guess the path unchosen, guys. The path unchosen. I gotta take a quick drink of water here. Throat's getting just a little bit dry. Okay. Allison says, have they figured out his alias in that group yet? No, they have absolutely no idea. They have no clue who I'm using to access these groups. Or, excuse me, what people I am using to access these groups. That's what I should really be saying. Melanie Taylor. He totally missed my clearly Marxist degree from UC Berkeley. I say, thanks for telling me, not that it matters to the story, but thanks. Karen Lawn. This is a serious threat, what he's doing. I'm tempted to report him to the chief of police. Ooh. I'm sorry, I can't read this without laughing. It's just so absurd. Megan Corvos, it's been reported the chief of police in Newburgh. Yeah, I'm the one who reported it. Very good, she says. I take that bad behavior very seriously. We only have one chance sometimes. Ooh. This guy says here, Lori Bress says, I am Loki, son of Odin, and I am burdened by glorious purpose. I gotta admit, that one did make me really laugh. That was kind of funny. Does anyone have a photo of Carrie Martell that can be shared? And then they dig out this old photo that I took as a joke of my stereotypical Steve Jobs pose photo from an accelerator I was part of like years ago. They dig that up. I asked them how to like my Steve Jobs pose photo. By the way, I don't need I should mention that because it's actually kind of funny. It's very funny, guys. Okay. They say, Bajoris Harrison Doherty, I think is how you pronounce it. If he's paying for fancy LinkedIn, he can see who looks at his profile, just FYI. But, I don't need fancy LinkedIn to see who's looking at my profile. I got a front row seat to the show right here. Amy, another one of these people from Need is commenting here. She's admin. Okay. Rich Bleha says, I'm very much in the business of shady money. Ooh, they found evidence of the company I use to sell fencing equipment. Ooh, shady money, guys. It's just so stupid. Angie Spratcher says, my classroom made the story. Yay. Yeah, I don't know about that. So yay. So yay to show evidence that you were breaking Oregon state law by removing American flags from a classroom. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be something to celebrate about. Then, of course, they say that Chuck Rose, who is a legitimate crazy person, I think, in their group, he says, I'm fairly certain Dave is the driving force behind Carrie. And yeah, sorry, I am the only person driving the Carrie Express. Nobody else can handle this wheel. Okay? And Carrie Martin, another one of their members, says, Jesus, that table of contents, though. And Scott Hodges comes in again and says, this mystical story here, about how brave he apparently is. It says, Kerry Martell posted his nonsense in one of the Newburgh community Facebook groups last night, talking about how it's all a big conspiracy, a criminal conspiracy, and a RICO violation. I asked him if he had notified the police and shown his proof. No response, and the post has since been deleted. He is all hot air. Yeah. Well, now I know what fake account you're using to access in the public groups. Thanks, Scott. Let's see. Beth says, would it be helpful for more of us to join the Facebook groups targeted in his BS? Yes, absolutely. Come hither into my trap. Come hither into my trap, and let me respond with incriminating screenshots so that you guys just get more and more crazy. Absolutely. Say more and more stupid shit inside your group. Megan Corvos here says, just for the record, he's talking about the County Board of Health and my wife. No, this is something. So this requires some explanation because you really see what an absolute fucking idiot Megan Corvos is. I'm sorry, I don't know a nicer way to say it. She's a fucking idiot. Okay, she's literally giving me leads here on how to investigate potential violations of law. Somebody said that I should look into a certain situation, and Megan decided that she had to defend herself because people that are guilty of stuff just gotta defend themselves all the time. Megan says, for the record, this he's talking about the County Board of Health and my wife, who got a job appointed, and Brittany thought that there was something wrong there. So she's literally given me a list of people to look into, that all know the true story and blah, blah, blah. And, and then she's upset because Starrett said that she was looking for a diversity of opinions, which I've explained to Megan here in the section. But, thank you for the leads, Megan. You've been so very helpful to my investigation because you are so very, very stupid. I and everyone else who downloads my spreadsheet of the Progressive Yamhill members can now look into the members of that health committee and cross-reference them to your list of members in Progressive Yamhill and ferret out whatever connections might exist. Thank you. Here's the thing. They're stupid, but they're organized, right? Stupid people organized can still do a lot of damage. They really can. Chuck Rose again says, let's see, I offended Becky and ousted her husband as a reserve police officer. Said he's a shitbag for even considering being a pig. Lovely person. Chuck Rose again. Yeah, it's weird. I downloaded an app that tells me where everyone lives. Wonderful. So anyway, your mafia engaged in intimidation, coercion against elected officials with the objective of pressuring them to change their votes or resign. You've got no grounds to cry for having your criminal conspiracy revealed to the world. I know it's taking a long time just going through this. This whole section is as parts of the Newburgh School District employee manual that shows various things that they, various rules that faculty have broken in the need group that I exposed. That just gets them fired, though. It doesn't really put them in jail, which is what I'm trying to do. Angie Spratcher again says, I found the TikTok of my classroom. I didn't see a spreadsheet. And then, other people tell her, and this again shows they're part of the group. They're actively showing loyalty to other members of the group who have been exposed. That's what Progressive Yamhill is doing. They're helping and assisting the need members. They're assisting them. You see, they're providing them information because they're all just one big happy family. Let's see. They talk about, I mentioned that there's a conflict of interest because of Yamhill County Commissioner Casey Kula involvement, okay? And ignorance of the law is no defense against breaking it. Heather Ann here says, I couldn't read much of his drivel. Is there any validity? to any of the accusations? Are there any possible consequences for board members or educators? In my opinion, there's nothing there, but the law is not my strong suit. Yeah, well, let me tell you, at the time of me posting this, this is the last comment that was posted into the thread. There's no responses to Heather Ann assuring her that all of what I've said is just a bunch of nonsense, because they understand the gravity of what they're being accused of doing and the evidence that I have already showed in the first article. They understand this is a very serious matter. It's an existential crisis for their group and its integrity and its agenda. But ignorance of law is no defense against breaking it. You're not a child. You're all adults. You are responsible for the nonsense you decided to do. Then Corvos, for someone who has spent so many years breaking laws to interfere with the local government, you sure know very little about the laws themselves. Let me explain this to you. The involvement of so many City of Newburgh officials creates a conflict of interest for the Newburgh Police Department, since those officials control their budgets. Likewise, county commissioners have jurisdiction over sheriff departments via their budgets. This creates conflicts of interest with investigations done against those elected officials and their associates via the sheriff department, meaning it has to be bumped up to the Oregon State Police. Similarly, the involvement of state officials, such as State Representative Courtney Neron, can create conflicts of interest for the state police, especially since Deborah Bridges, who works for the Oregon State Attorney General Office, is one of the members of NEED. Then, of course, there's all the assholes who are in your progressive Yamhill group, who have positions all over the county and state, and some even at the federal level. For example, this smiling fellow, Scott Olson, is one of your members, yeah? And what does he do? Oh, he's counsel at the U.S. House of Representatives. Yeah. And he's posted some stuff into your group over the years too. He's part of it. He's posted a bunch of stuff, guys. Even part of the indivisible Oregon training going on. Yeah. So consequently, the FBI is the only law enforcement agency who can take this investigation on due to all the conflicts of interest that have been created by your criminal conspiracy's membership roster. So I reiterate, you're all fucked. You're being investigated by the FBI. Nobody else can run with this. It has to be them. Everything you guys have done is a criminal conspiracy under Oregon law. You just helped me prove my case, actually. Your self-incriminating statements indicate you have, as an organized group, engaged in a pattern of misdemeanors, felonies, and other violations for the purpose of interfering with lawful administration of government, and that the need member list spreadsheet I released has accurate information in it as to who is a member of your conspiracy. You've also helped me prove Progressive Yamhill is an extension of the need group. I'm not a lawyer, but I think this is more than enough probable cause for warrants to be issued. Welcome to the consequences of your stupidity. Anyway, I got a little funny Dave Chappelle meme here that I think really goes along with this. Anyway, the important thing here is that they took the bait, and I got these idiots to prove beyond all doubt Progressive Yamhill is an extension of the Newburgh Equity and Education Group, and that many of the key members of Newburgh Equity and Education are also members of Progressive Yamhill. As such, the criminal conspiracy and RICO charges of the NEED group should apply to all the Progressive Yamhill members too, as they are the ally accomplices, to use their own term here, that they are. Members of the conspiracy. How does it feel to have your criminal network that took years to build up be fully exposed and defanged in a matter of weeks? I mean, you can't operate from the shadows anymore. Everyone knows who you are and what you've been a part of. You thought you were winning. You weren't winning. You have lost. You've gathered all the worst people in the county into a single group and made it easy to identify who you are and why you shouldn't have any political control. Here's Rich Blaha posting last night. Hey everyone, the mod team talked, and we figured it's a good time. I can't even say it with a straight face. It's a good time, guys, for a refresher on internet postings. While this is a private group, the fiasco that played out with Martell infiltration of the Newberg Private Recall group holds lessons. If it's on the internet, you can just assume that it can be found forever. And people aren't above weaponizing that throwaway joke that can be easily taken out of context. Oh, that's right, guys. They're all just joking about harassing elected officials, breaking up Brian Shannon's marriage, gathering a bunch of personal information so they can harass and boycott people's businesses, solicitation, all kinds of shit. It's all just a throwaway joke, guys. Ooh, it's not a throwaway joke. Continuing on to his post, though, he says, before you hit send, take a beat and think of your employer, cool grandma, and kiddo seeing that post. Some examples and blah, blah, blah. He uses me as an example. Kerry Martell has far too much time on his hands and has been shown using it against anyone he thinks disagrees with him. Oh yeah, that's why I'm doing it, guys. It's because you disagree with me on the internet. No, it's because you're criminals. I think you're criminals. One friend in Newberg is rarely on social media, supposedly, but I suspect was just following the need group because of a kid in the district. They were called out by him and is now Googleable in his imaginary mafia. People with far more experience than me, personal or professional, have expressed mental health concerns about him. We can just hope that Carrie gets a girlfriend sometime soon. If you have real mental health problems, getting a girlfriend is not going to solve it. These guys are fucking idiots. Anyway, you can read more of this stuff, in the thing. Anyway, too little, too late. I think I archived pretty much your entire Facebook group before I ever hit publish on the first article. I also created a spreadsheet of all its members, too. I thought there was a small chance you might panic and destroy the Facebook group, so I took the time to do this before I published. As for having too much free time, well, I always have time to spare for justice. You've also mistaken, you're mistaken to assume I'm part of anyone's campaign. I'm not doing this because I want other people to win against you. I am doing this because you must lose. Because what your group does is evil. I was ridiculing you a bit about the Night of Rot stuff, but after some consideration, that's probably what my role really is in all this. I inserted myself into the conflict because of my principles, not because I am with any of these factions. By the way, here's Sidoni Winfield giving very bad advice. She says, this is not legal advice. Good thing. But Governor Brown signed into law, I believe, House Bill blah, blah, blah. It's an anti-doxing bill, okay? And she says, this will give a civil recourse for intentional doxing of someone. She says, I struggle to find the actual chapter numbers, but they gotta be there, guys. I don't know where the chapter numbers are, but it's gotta be there. This guy, Saul Peralta, who you're gonna quickly learn you should not be taking legal advice from, since he literally violated the Civil Rights Act of 1964. But she says he should be able to clarify the process. Yeah, don't take advice from that dick shit, that fucking idiot. He's a fucking idiot, okay? Don't take advice from this guy. Sorry, I don't know a nicer way to say it. This dude violated the Civil Rights Act 1964. Fuck that guy. Don't listen to that guy. Doxing is the leaking of private information. I didn't release any private information. I quoted information you made public. I explained this in the legal disclaimer of the first article. You have no legal recourse to retaliate, okay? Oregon has a very strong anti-strategic lawsuit against public participation, also known as SLAPP, law. I haven't committed any legal offenses against you. Again, it's your own fault for organizing your criminal conspiracy using Facebook. I'd recommend that you don't take legal advice from the very same idiots who led you all into this criminal conspiracy in the first place. That's not legal advice, it's just common sense. Now, with this serving as my lengthy introduction to the expose, let's dive into the facts about the cell of the cult and its activities over the past few years. in Yamhill County. And with that, I'm going to end this first part of the video, and we will begin anew in a second part. Thank you for watching. Please, if you'd like, contribute, a few bucks to my legal defense fund. I'm sure these idiots are gonna try to waste lots of time, and I need to retain an attorney to defend myself. So if you appreciate what I've done here, please, by all means, throw some bucks my way. Thanks so much. See you in part 2 of my part 2. Later.